This Thursday, I had the chance to talk with Kornelijem Kovačem from the Korni Grupa and Kornelians, whatever. That was their name in the West, was Kornelians. And we did a very long interview, something which I'm not going to do the whole thing tonight. In fact, I'll be running it the next few weeks for a while, playing some tracks from the band, too. Always fascinated me, and it was real neat to be able to find him via the internet and do this interview. So we're going to start that off right now, and then we're going to play a Korni Grupa track after that. So sit back and enjoy this interview with Kornelijem Kovačem here on MSE. Joining me right now on Planet Prog Radio is Kornelijem Kovačem, who was in the band, which we know as the Kornelians here in the States, but they were also called the Korni Grupa. Did I say it right?
Yes, you did.
Okay.
Actually, Korni Grupa.
Korni Grupa, okay. Let's go back to the beginning. When did you start playing music?
In my very early age, because the part of my family were musicians. My grandfather, my father. My grandfather was a choir
director. Like a choir director?
Director, exactly. My father was a violin player in a symphony orchestra in the north of Yugoslavia, in the town called Subotica, very near the Hungarian border, where I lived my childhood. And actually, I started with when I was 6. I was starting with a low-level music school. I finished then around 10 years of this
of age.
Yes, and then I went to the music high school to Sarajevo. You heard about that.
Yes,
town.
From the Olympics and they've had
the war and
the war. Yes,
I studied their music. I actually graduated in 1964 on the section called Theory and Piano. But, with my early age, like when I was 13, I started to be very interested for other kind of music, not only classical, which I was trained in the school. So I formed little trios, quartets in that town when I lived in the north of Yugoslavia.
Were you playing rock and roll then? Or
no, then, in the beginning, it was like when I was 15, 16, we played something like swing jazz,
Okay, yes.
There was a little bit of rock and roll heard about on the airplay, here. More what we really had on the end of 50s, beginning of the 60s when I was very young, it was jazz music,
Yes.
And mostly that kind of modern swing jazz, So we actually started with that kind of music, playing on school dance afternoons, and like that. But my first contact with this kind of music was actually Elvis Presley,
Okay, well, that's everybody, eh? So many.
Jailhouse rock.
Yes.
Because there was just one record in the town, which actually I've got from a friend. And I don't remember now the rest of the songs, but I was impressed,
Yes.
And I started to try to play some tunes on the piano. But in the same time, you see, it's very interesting. I was impressed. There was some presentation of jazz music in some place, and they played Dizzy Gillespie,
Okay.
bebop. I didn't understand really nothing, first time. But I was impressed. I heard something different,
Yes.
as it was when I heard Elvis Presley. Because actually in that time, the Italian music was very popular here in Yugoslavia,
Okay.
Like festival Sanremo
Festival, right?
Singers from that time, Domenico Modugno, Pino Donaggio, So actually, but I was more interested in these two kinds which I just mentioned.
Right.
And then, as you are young and you study music, but your interest is something else, so I started to mix these two styles,
Yes.
Elvis Presley and Dizzy Gillespie, actually, not exactly mixing, but taking from each side something which I liked,
Yes.
And then when I finished this music school in Subotica, I wanted to come to Belgrade. Belgrade is the capital of Yugoslavia.
Yes.
Was capital of Serbia.
Yeah.
And actually, I didn't pass the how you call it, examination.
The exam, the test, or
the test.
Mm-hmm.
I was very, very disappointed because I was a very good student,
Yes.
in the school before. So somebody told me in Sarajevo there is also a music high school, music academy. For me, I was never there. Sarajevo was a town like we thought there on the north that it's like a kind of Turkish town. We didn't know actually. We were very young. But I decided to go there, and I passed there the exams, and I studied 4 years. I was a very good student, but also in that town, in the 1961, there was a radio station called Radio Sarajevo. There were two persons, young producers, which were searching in the town, going to the dance parties, listening around, and they called me playing in some place of these. And they offered me. They said, if you want something to release, to record actually on radio, we have the studio there. You have to make a band. When you are ready, the door is open,
Well, that was one of my questions. What was your first recording? So they go back to 1961?
1961, exactly.
Okay.
And I did a little trio, piano, bass, and drums.
And drums, okay.
We did some recordings on the radio, and we were very, very delighted with that.
How it sounded?
We were delighted because that was our first recording,
Do you still have those recordings?
Some of them, yes.
Okay.
Yes, I have. Actually, I managed to save some tape from Sarajevo when I left Sarajevo and came to live to Belgrade.
Belgrade.
So I have these recordings.
91.7 WMSE Milwaukee. You're listening to Planet Prog. I'm your host, Mark Krieger, and we'll be here for a little while yet. That last set of music, let me tell you what we played. We did a tune by the Kornelijem Kovačem from their first album. That song later appeared on Not an Ordinary Life, and Biz Glav Jaha Horde. I think that's how you say it, or it's close. And before that, we did an interview, or part. We have many more of these interviews to do. We did about an hour interview with Kornelijem Kovačem from the Kornelijem Kovačem, and we'll be doing more again next week. And we'll be talking more about like the Kornelijem Kovačem and stuff and what he's doing now. And we'll be playing some more tracks. We're getting some more of the 45s from a friend of mine, so we'll be playing some tracks we've never played by the band before here in the show. So that's coming up in the next few weeks, and all kinds of other stuff too. We'll be featuring some of the bands at Nearfest and a few weeks ago, we interviewed Kornelijem Kovačem from the Kornelians, whatever you want to call them. And it was an hour-long interview, so we're kind of splitting it up in the next few weeks. We're going to play some of that right now, then we'll play a tune by them. And so it's real interesting stories that we're going to hear about what it was like to be a rock band in Yugoslavia in the 60s and 70s. So we're going to hit that interview up right now, and we'll be back in a little while. You're listening to 91.7 WMSE Milwaukee.
Have these recordings.
Mm-hmm.
But that was, as I told you, my interest was in the beginning very towards jazz music, you know.
Mm-hmm. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Just tell me.
I was going to ask you, so you did your first recordings in 1961, and with a band, was that the band that became the Kornelijem Kovačem?
No. It was a trio, as I told you, bass, drums, and piano.
Mm-hmm.
And in 1963, we were representatives of jazz music in a festival in Slovenia.
Okay.
Where they were very surprised that anybody from Bosnia and Herzegovina is coming to present jazz music, you know.
Mm-hmm.
We were the first ever band coming from that part of the country, you know.
Yeah, you were very young, too, weren't you?
Yes, I was 21, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a few, like 4 or 5 tunes on our repertoire.
Mm-hmm.
And one was the title called Django of John Lewis from Modern Jazz Quartet.
Right.
And we played other tunes also, but in the moment where we started to play that song, I was playing something on the right top side of the piano,
mm-hmm.
and somehow I saw the first row of the public, you know, of the audience, and I saw Mr. John Lewis in the first row.
Really?
Really. And I didn't feel my legs, my hands. I was shaking, you know.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, I don't know. He was married with the sister of some Yugoslavian pianist, some story like that.
Yeah.
But anyway, we were received with a good. We had a
good crowd. The crowd liked you.
Yes.
And
but then in '64, you know, or '63, I don't remember exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Suddenly, Beatles, Rolling Stones appeared in the world.
Mm-hmm.
It was like a storm.
Were those records hard to get for you?
In that time, actually, the beginning of the '60s, I remember Tommy Steele, the
English singer. Mm-hmm.
Billy Vaughan. Billy Vaughan. Sorry. What was that American singer, Billy?
Oh, geez, I don't.
I can't remember now. But anyway, a few records of rock and roll, you know.
Right.
But then, as I said, and the beginning of the '60s, we still played Italian music, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Very popular here. But then, when Beatles and the Stones appeared, and all groups following their style and their type of music, we all were cut off or cut out with that kind of music. Of course, I was young, and I was impressed also with the not only with the music. I mean, like chords, chord progression, but with the freedom in the presentation, in the sounds, in the
songwriting and all that.
Yes, all that. You know, it was like they shouted. And we couldn't imagine how can they shout. You know, we were not allowed to shout in the music. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, not allowed. It was not common. You know.
Right.
And but then I joined the band, a very important band, which still exists in Sarajevo, called Indexi.
Okay, I've heard of that band, yes.
Yes, they still work, of course, less than before, but one band which still exists in Bosnia and Herzegovina. And I joined that band for 2 years. I was just a keyboard player, you know. They changed many keyboard players, actually.
Okay.
And with that band, actually, the beginning of 60s, we couldn't have solo concerts, you know, like in the big halls and like that. But we had concerts. But the main acts were on festivals, you know.
Okay.
Festivals of pop music. And when we appeared on those festivals, it was like our presentation of music and our act was always limited, you know.
By limited by time?
Not so loud, please.
Oh, okay. Yes, I know that.
Your place is only this place on the stage. You can't move out from that pointed place, you know. It was very funny.
Yes, I know what that's like.
Yes, because, you know, they called us, I can't translate, it's a little bit difficult. They called us shouters, you know.
Okay, like screamers, like a scream?
Screamers, yes, electricians, you know, funny names, you know.
Okay.
Because it was, for them, it was loud. And we liked to be loud, you know.
Of course.
And actually, I left that band. In 1966, we had a tour, 1.5 months tour in Russia.
Oh, wow.
The European part of Russia, visiting around 35 cities from the south of European part of Russia to the very north, you know. And with a lot of success, you know.
Wow.
We played, actually, 25% of our compositions, our music.
Original, yes.
Yes. The rest was from the LP Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club. Then from some songs of Kings, Yardbirds, just a moment.
Rolling Stones?
Eric Burdon Animals.
Okay.
Because what's happened? On the first concert in Moscow, there was a jury, you know, from the from the
government?
Yes, exactly. They were listening us, and when we finished that concert, they told us, please, we don't need American and English music. We need the music of Yugoslav brotherhood nation. Somehow, you know what's brotherhood?
I know what you mean, yes.
But that was a common word, brotherhood, you know, in Russia in that time. So we couldn't play any more English and American songs.
They wouldn't let you anymore? Or?
No, because they told us, we have somebody who will travel with you and listen to your concert, and he will be in touch with them and inform them what are we doing, you know. So, actually, 6 or 7 concerts, we played our songs. Of course, for the Russian audience who never heard our songs, it was like, you know, okay, but we don't like the songs, you know, we don't know the songs, you know.
Yes.
So, on the 8th concert, our singer just in one moment turned to us on the stage and said, Cadillac. There was a title called Cadillac.
Cadillac, okay.
Yes, it starts with the bass drum, tuk, 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 you know. And the drummer was so happy. started immediately.
Yes.
And from that concert until the end of the tour, we played all what we played and what we
played in
wanted
Moscow.
to play.
Mm-hmm.
When we finished the tour, they told us, yes, you are a very good group, but we don't need you anymore in Russia. That was a funny thing. Of course, when I left Indexi, they were on the black list.
The blacklist, okay.
For 6 years, but then, they changed people there in the government, in the culture, so they actually were invited after that again.
So it was hard sometimes to play your music at those times when the communist government looking all the time? Was it hard to play the kind of music?
Look, that's happened in Russia, but in our country, there was no problem,
Yeah,
we played foreign music, and it was very popular, the people liked it. Of course, when you get to the radio and offering them a repertoire, the songs which you will record, there was more interest in our original music. But it was a good thing, to provoke our composers, our authors to write music, because if not, we could never hear our music, So there was no problem, The only thing that in the lyrics of the songs, you couldn't go too far. I mean, not criticize the politicians or to have very urban. I don't know if you
open.
Urban.
Okay.
It's like a city, urban.
Oh, urban.
Urban. No. Sorry.
That's all right. But you couldn't really, talk about the politicians if they were bad, and you couldn't criticize the government and.
Yes. No, not like Dylan.
Yeah, exactly.
That was the problem. So the stories of the tunes, lyrics were mostly about love and ordinary things.
Right.
That was the only limit we had in those times. And then in '68, I decided to change the town. Because Sarajevo in those times was still a little bit out of the main...
out of touch a little bit, yeah?
Out of main events, things happening in the music market. They didn't have a record company. They didn't have a TV station,
Right.
Belgrade, Zagreb, and other towns they had. So I decided to leave Sarajevo, and I arrived to Belgrade in September 1968. Immediately, I was asking around for musicians. I knew many musicians, many groups, So from 3 bands, they were actually splitting in that time,
The bands were breaking up. The other ones. Okay.
Ellipse, Zlatni Dečaci, and what was the third band? Ellipse, Dečaci. Yeah, there was one more. So I chose some musicians. We had meetings talking about music because actually in Indexi I was a keyboard player. I couldn't really lead the style or the program which we will work on. So I wanted to release my ideas. I was full of ideas. I was young, still young, 27 when I came to Belgrade. So finally I found the musicians. The problem was a singer. The first singer was a girl, but she was in the band only 2 months, 3 months, because it happened once that she started to cry because she wanted to sing a song. We wanted another one, and couldn't work with girls.
Was that and that was the corny group at the beginning?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
You're listening to 91.7 WMSC Milwaukee. You're also listening to the Corny Group again. We did a little interview a few weeks ago with Kornelijem Kovačem, and we ran some, and we also played a tune from the band too. Next week we'll have a lot more of the interview, and should be very good indeed. And